My name's Nathan Targett. I'm a 4D planner, a senior planner at Metisplan. Metisplan consultancy, we work in planning consultancy, we work in various areas, rail, metro, aviation, renewable gas. And I'm finding myself recently, in the last few years, doing a lot of 4D within delay claims. So if people don't want to use 4D for planning, I will definitely be using 4D to show the issues that you've got in delay claims, and it's been used very effectively. The company works in all over the world. I've worked in Saudi Arabia, we worked in Qatar, in Copenhagen, on various projects. I'm particularly looking for anything in the Caribbean, if anything's going, because I'm just sitting in my kitchen for the last 8 months and wishing I was somewhere else.
That is funny. I'm sorry. That's hilarious.
But that's the way it goes. So now Phil has asked me ever since this got going to come and present this to you guys, but for various reasons we've not been able to. And I've had many coffees with Phil, and it's taken a lot longer than 15 minutes. So I'm going to try and power through and see if I can get across some of the issues that trying to do 4D planning and why this project in particular. I was shortlisted 4D Planner of the Year, and this project actually won a special category, which I'll talk about in a minute. Just a quick push on this event. This is the 4D.construction. If you go to this website, this is a group of 4D specialists and people interested in 4D. We've got legal representatives, change management expert, contractors, 4D modelers from all over the world. Currently, we've got 800 people signed up in 30 countries. It's 2 hours a day. You come on the day you want to come and listen to hear about the new. And the idea is just basically trying to get people to plan properly. And so then I don't come along later and do 4D in delay analysis. There's be stuff on how to help clients set up EIRs, employees information requirements, how to help them to set an environment that allows 4D and proper open, transparent planning, and not this fear of, oh, this is my plan, I'm holding on to it and I'm not sharing it, but actually getting it out there early enough so we can actually mitigate, find the risk and move forward. Great group on this website. There's podcasts. There's a podcast you can listen to from me talking about delay analysis and using 4D in that. But it's a great group of people. It's been going about 10 years. I've been a part of it for the last few years, and I'm in the core team. And these are just some of the speakers that will be there. So you might recognize some people amongst there. So Liverpool Line Street Station. If you think about 4D, most times it's a static building. So things are being built in the same place. It goes on top of each other. You've got your foundations, your slabs. It's all very nice. It's all within this kind of area. And then they've got these kind of 3D piles. You get a little vehicle comes through to kind of show that this is where that lorry is going to come into site and it's going to go off site, or maybe this bit is going to be dropped over here by this crane. But it's really, the building is what the main focus of this. What this project was saying, well, actually, we want to now use the trains and show them being moved, and they'll be used on a duration, and they will be by the minute planned. And we want to see all the trains moving through what is a blockade. I'll show you how it's done. The software we use for Synchro, it's the only thing out there at the moment that does that. There are certain things that can say they do it, but I've not actually seen a better way of doing it. There are issues with it. We are pushing this software to the limits because it really was built around planning. It goes down to a minute's worth of planning, whereas I need seconds worth of planning, but most people would never plan into that level of detail. I'm going to give you, it started off very simply and it got complicated, and I'll talk about the problems that you will find and the different things that have changed. Liverpool Lime Street Station, it's a £140 million investment, which is upgrade the station facilities, the concourse, changing the signalling, putting in new track, making sure that there was the signals are now going back to Manchester operating base. They were going to put in longer platforms because these new cross-rail, cross-country trains that are longer trying to get in there. And it was basically replacing all the track, the signals and the overhead line equipment for 2 kilometres between Edge Hill and Liverpool Line Street. And I was only looking at one blockade, right? So this is over a number of years, and I'm looking in the October, it was the biggest blockade, the longest blockade, which means that no trains were coming out of this station. So we really must upset a lot of people in Liverpool for a number of days. But at the end of the day, what they got as a result of that was a fantastic facility and trains there. This is the track. This is 2 lines in, 2 lines out. It was hewn out of limestone, built by these guys, hand built, donkeys and all kinds of pulley systems. Very narrow, and obviously trains back there are a bit narrow, weren't so big, and they didn't have overhead power. They obviously had steam trains, so they only needed They didn't need to have all this other complicated equipment. And what this leaves us with is that. Not the most prettiest of places to work, and very dark at times. You can't get access because trains are running up and down. There's not really any bolt holes to jump into if a train's coming past. You're cramped for 2 kilometers, and then suddenly you're hitting all these points as you come into Liverpool, and then you're shoved off onto different platforms. So it's a difficult environment. So for those who don't know where Liverpool is, I will get my movie to show you. I know there's people from all around the world here. They might have heard of the Beatles or Cilla Black. But this is Liverpool, and they might know where that is, but they definitely don't know where Edge Hill is. So I kind of put a little video together to explain this cutting that was going through. So it started at Edge Hill, jumps all the way through all that train track. You can see where those cutting has been built across. So you've got car parks now being built across, shopping centres, you've got roads, extra roads being built across. So it's now pretty much, rather than rail, you're kind of like as a crossover with underground metro work that we've done. You're kind of restricted. So this is to do this, SPI designed a point cloud, and they did a point cloud of the whole area because you couldn't get access. They made a VR model that the contractors could go through, and also made it available to the public to use. And it was that model that they said, well, we've got this model and we've got all these plans. Well, why don't we put them together and try and show some train movements? And this was the final picture of what it would look like, and it does look like. It's very nice at the moment. So what started very simply in November, December 2016 was that I was asked to try and show on our model, this VR model, some trains going through, hitting workspaces, which Synchro is very good at showing where dynamic objects move through and hit a workspace, there's a clash. So that seemed quite simple enough to do. So I made a little video as concepts, and that was what you see a work train coming through, hitting a workspace. There's a clash there, potential clash there. This train's passing that train. You're trying to identify things, and the main, it should kind of be simple, right? And because I'm only using one little object, it was simple at this point. And it suddenly changed, because then what happened was when we got to site, say, well, that's nice, but we actually want to know the consistency of the train, the consist of the train, what it's made up, how many wagons, how many cranes, how many locos are coming in, what the types are, where they're coming in, they're going to be crossing certain points. And when I've seen videos done of train track replacements, you normally find the train is either installed, so it is in its final position, or it's on a plain line where the train just comes in and out and in and out, and it's on plain track. But this being the terminus, and lots of different points and crossings and splitting up of the trains and moving across, was, rather than this simplistic thing, became very, very complicated and quite difficult to manage, but it can be done. And I had to do a lot of calculations with macros about how to start the train, where to start, the percentage finish based on the consistency of each train. And I can bore your senses, and I'm sure I did to Phil when I did tell him this, but a lot of maths went into the back of this, and it was quite hard, but we have a process that we can use. So the main contractors were the Buckingham's Group and an S&C Alliance, Siemens, the Network Rail Station Management, who come in charge of the platforms. And then obviously the main program, really, I was told, is we work off the S&C Alliance program. This is the track, this is the replacement of the track. These are trains that have booked their place into the possession a year, maybe 2 years advance, because they've got to flow in amongst all the other traffic that's on the main line that's being used by the commuters and public, and they've got to get to position. They have to come in at a certain time and they have to leave at a certain time. So everybody wants to know where these trains are, how long they are they going to be in my area, and do they work around, how I'm going to work around them. And what they wanted, what changed from just a simple little model of a little train word coming across, is they want to know the full length, the consistency of the train, where they are at any one moment, and the route that they were taking and the path. And that is actually quite a hard thing to do. And the idea was to be better coordination of the different programs, the civils work, the signalling work, the train works, and identify any management or opportunities and risks, and also to show where the clashes were. And it would mean that if you knew where the trains were, you could probably put other works that were set for later stages to come in. So you can de-risk future blockades or possessions and bring that work in, which is quite interesting. And that's what we're looking for. So it's a 23-day blockade. This is the model, and I keep my models. So going back to that, that was what I got. And then I just basically said, right, well, I know my trains have to fit that gauge. I'm only interested as a planner to see if my program or my client's programs are working. So I'm just going to use blocks. So my loco is a green and my wagons are red, but the length is very important. And I learned a lot about different types of wagons. I can bore you senseless on that, but they're normally named after birds of prey or some kind of fish. And there's variants of that kind of fish. So you got super salmons, you got super pre-1999, and everything had maybe half a meter, 2 meter changes. And of course that affected the train. So each one had to be modeled. And then the S&C guys, the guys who are in charge of the trains and the track, they're brilliant. Their minds, it's all in their minds. They've got it in their minds and it got it in their program. But how do you get it out to the contractors to understand that? And that's the hard point. And this is their program. This was done in MSP, Microsoft project, and then brought into Synchro. This is Synchro, what you're looking at now. What was interesting, you see this row here is number 19. In their mind, when they're planning, they've written it all out. This train comes in across these points. So Loco 47 is consisted of 9 salmons, which is a wagon, a Kiro crane, Kiro support, comes in on the up fast, crosses over on points 1, 2, 3, moves to this point 1, 2, 3, and then positions into platform 5. That is like 5 or 6 different moves. But when you write it out, as a human, you can understand it, but as a computer, you actually had to split it out. And that took me a long time to split it out. And to understand how that was, I actually filmed each one. I put a camera up and that we were filming it through with, they've got the post-it notes and big wall planner, not obviously a schematic, and I'll show you a video of that. And then we were able to, from there, I could get the modelers to make me my paths, and then I would assign the objects to it. And these videos are also, these early videos were available to the other contractors. So if they went to the S&C program and they saw activity code 21 and it was 30 minutes duration, they could see where that train was and where it was moving by watching that video. So even though the 4D wouldn't have been there originally, they could have still, this was getting out of their head and onto a plan. So this is just showing you all the work that was done and all the objects that are attached. Anything with the blue is where an object has been attached to that activity, and these are all the paths that were used. So there's a lot of work done on that. Excuse me, let me just scrub that through again. So that's how we were videoing it. So this would say Loco 3 loaded salmons, 8 loaded tilters, pulling forward into the platform 3, I think that was. But what this doesn't show you is that how long this is. Now that train could be 490 meters long. It's probably about 250, that one, but it would sit out over these points, you see. And of course that would block anything else moving up and trying to get into the platform or any works over here. You might think, because it's not to scale. And that was some of the problems they were having. But by showing this and at full scale, it actually makes a lot more sense when it's been modeled up. So there's lots of train moves I made, lots of statistics about the paths, the number of objects I had to calculate the start and finish for, 3,710 to be exact, except if you got it wrong, then you obviously it was a bit more than that. Longest path of the train, lots of things. But the traditional method that they would be doing on site would be doing these PowerPoints. Now, I love PowerPoint, and there are times I use PowerPoint, and there's times I use 4D. If anything changes, you've got to rechange the PowerPoint. Now, in some ways, you have to rechange the 4D as well, but it's not as bad if it's just a change of durations. If it's a change of consist, which did happen, then it's a little bit harder. And normally those consist changes don't happen, but because a piece of equipment was coming in from, I think it was Holland or something like that, and to replace the track, it didn't happen. So every other consist had to change. And by this time, I had gone 3/4 of the way through, and it was like, oh, great, I've got to redo it all again. But it took time. So what you end up with, though, is I could actually, this is a playback of just a period of the week 1 it was. And oops, I've gone back too far. And you've got the activities down here, what's happening at any one point and where the trains are on site. So I know the green is a loco, the red is a salmon wagon, the white's osprey, the blues are, and you would have a legend up about this. I haven't put a legend on here. And you can actually sit down with the guys and say, right, at 21:37, definitely at that time, that's how it's going to look on site, because those trains are planned to the minute and second if I can get it, which I couldn't, but it's not bad, you see. Now, what was nice is this loco here for the blockade manager, I think the blockade manager might be listening in on this, is that this train sat here from 10:30 till about 7:30 in the morning, and it's running. They don't turn it off. But while a train is running, or a loco is running, you can't actually do any work around it. There's a certain area of safety around that you can't be. But if you see this and the other contractors go, well, okay, you're sitting there for 7 hours. Well, why don't you shift up here a bit? And I could do some copers replacement. I could do some lighting. Or I can do some type. And that's where you start to de-risk and you're starting to have that conversation. But until you actually see it, it's in the mind of the guys, the S&C guys, who are not understanding how the contractors always get it in their minds. And you're going to see clashes. So that's what you kind of end up with. And the process of going through this was that it helped me validate the S&C program. So there was a time when I knew there was only 2 Kiro cranes on site, which is the dark blue, and their Kiro Plane Support, which is just another wagon that sits behind it, right? I know they got 2, but for some reason, suddenly 3 appear, and I was able to take a screenshot, put a couple of stickers on and say, I think you've got a problem here, boys, because there's the yellow. These are the 2 activities that seem to be start to start, and you've got an issue. You need to sort that out. Again, this was a loco trying to come in at the same time, or even the same loco sometimes. And you can say, well, you've got to start on there. So you're telling me you've got 10 minutes to do that move, but actually you haven't, because you've got to do this move in 5 minutes. And that really shouldn't be start with that one. You need to change your logic. This one was interesting. They had some Kiro cranes up in a platform and they wanted to come back out, but they couldn't because this train was blocking. This really long train that doesn't fit in the platform was blocking the signals. So again, you say, right, okay, well, if you want that train coming out, then you've got to do something with this train or move it around. So again, it validates their program. It validates the logic. You had a train here that was then suddenly over here. Well, how's that? Well, you missed an activity here. There needs to be right, we need to act an activity in. And then once it's been built, you can use it for stakeholder meetings, contractor awareness, worksite briefings, health and safety, for example. And that's really, once it's been built, where you can do it. Now, I have some learning. The problem is that the way I probably would have done it, looking back, is to get earlier engagement, was to actually put the trains in their final resting position, like those 4D videos that I had seen online. And what I actually did in King's Cross Station was I did that and I put the trains in their final position. But this time, rather than trying to animate the trains through along the 3D path, I just made a sphere. And this sphere, like a ball bearing, was just sent along the line on the duration that was supposed to along the path. It took 3 minutes, or 30 minutes to go the 2 kilometers or whatever the distance was. And in that time, if that ball hit any of the workspaces by the other contractors, then I had a clash report. It wasn't perfect, but it gets you 80% there, and it's a lot quicker, especially if they make changes. So that's some advice I would give you if you're going to try and do this again. The change in sequence was a difficulty trying to do the method I used, and that's why the ball bearing kind of idea kind of came into place with the King's Cross Station. The time, it took me a very long time to get it all together. It was one of the frustrations that I found was that I was the planner and everybody was sitting around, needed me in the room. What I liked about Greg's presentation before is now Bentley's pushing this onto the cloud. So I could just put my 4D model onto the cloud now and everybody could access it. Network Rail has fantastic security on their IT. They want separate PCs if you're external consultants. They couldn't install the software. They couldn't get it for me to share my SP file, which is the 4D file, to them. And to have it online now is actually going to be fantastic. So those are the kind of things that I want to get my projects out. Now, I also, at the end of this project, I looked at putting in the actual same thing into the HoloLens, which Greg was showing at the end, and he's positioned. And the idea is that when we do a 4D presentation of a very long site like that, you're kind of restricted by your TV screen or your monitor screen. So I can only show you what's happening between 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock down at the platform end. But also I'm asking the people, oh, can you just pause there? I've now played you 9 till 12 o'clock of what's happening down the platform, but I need to show you what's happening down the middle or down the far end. And I have to do 3 different videos. Now you could put them side by side, but can you imagine this? This is laid out on your, out on your board table. Everybody's got their headsets on. It can be augmented reality if you can't do headsets, or you could use VR if you wanted to and go in and use a VR. But this would be there, and you can have all your planning meetings. You can see the train moving. You press go, you see all the models and all the clashes. And this is really where I think Greg and myself are looking for anybody in infrastructure who wants to have a go at this. Just to make planning a lot easier. And with the way HoloLens is and what Greg's telling me at the moment is that I could pick trains up and move them places. I mean, that completely blows your mind, and it just kind of gives you a glimpse of the future. This could be a gas pipeline, this could be a road, this in the sense was a train. But I've worked on all these linear long projects, and they've got so many different work fronts along it. How do you keep up with it? And HoloLens might be the way forward. So anybody out there be interested.
Nathan, that's just fantastic. And congratulations on winning this award from Bentley Synchro, and also in documenting it in such a way that you can present it to us here. I think it's wonderful that Metisplan are available to provide these works to other people.